W.H.O.R.S. Inquiries, Volume 1, Their Architecture and Civilization, by Thelway Gillane, scholar. Part of a series of scholarly essays on the elusive W.H.O.R.S. In the deep halls, far from men, forsaken red mountain, twisted kin, hail the mind, hail the stone, dwarven pride, stronger than bone. It has been my life's work to investigate the W.H.O.R.S., their dubious history, and mysterious banishment. My goal with this text is to share my findings and conclusions based on 80 years spent studying their unique architectural remains. The migration of the Deep Elves from their ancestral Dwemereth, now Morrowind, is a generally accepted fact. Recorded history supports this, specifically mentioning the Whorcan clan's refusal to join King Dumac in the forming of the First Council, and their subsequent exodus to Hammerfell. The architectural premise is also sound, as the building habits of the dwarves adapted and changed, albeit slowly and in subtle ways, over time and land. I propose that some of these differences are stylistic as well as practical. The traditional viewpoints suggest that the Vvardenfell Dwemer were the most prolific of their kind. Based on my excavations throughout Skyrim, Morrowind, and High Rock, I am not sure that this is the case. While Vvardenfell is almost cluttered with dwarven ruins poking through the surface of the landscape, the construction of those ruins is fundamentally different from the majority of what I've observed elsewhere. Further, as we delve into Vvardenfell ruins, we notice that their internal structure is quite different. While major civic and operational chambers are found near the surface in a Vvardenfell ruin, that is not typically the case on the mainland. Minor passageways and storehouse rooms are near the surface, but more important locations don't occur until we explore much deeper. Because such major locations are well hidden in Dwemer ruins outside of Morrowind, many scholars believe that they were in fact not present in ruins outside that province. This premature conclusion led some to believe such sites to be mere outposts. My research has shown this not to be the case. There are a few theories that may explain this difference. Perhaps clan architects simply had their own styles and preferences when it came to civic planning. This seems only somewhat likely, as dwarven techniques were based on empirical study. There was likely little room for creative interpretation when it came to building technique. Geological makeup of the terrain almost certainly played a role, especially in a region like northern Skyrim, where the ground near the surface is very rocky and often frozen, versus the volcanic substratum common in Vvardenfell or the ubiquitous aquifers found in Hammerfell. It's possible the dwarven architects in the north were not even able to excavate larger structures until reaching more pliable stratum. The scholar would like to suggest, however, that many structures west of Morrowind were built after First Era 420. When the clan Whorcan left Vvardenfell, it seems evident that several clans broke off to create their own settlements and chose to live together in greater isolation than their eastern brethren. This theory is particularly fascinating because it leads me to believe that dwarven architects may have developed even more elaborate methods of hiding their strongholds over time. This opens the distinct possibility that undisturbed dwarven archaeological sites exist throughout Tamriel, even in southern areas like Cyrodiil or Blackmarsh, where dwarves are not believed to have ever had a significant presence. Though we ought not get carried away on flights of fancy, One could extrapolate this logic to suggest that some dwarven clans were living among us for much longer than previously believed, perhaps well beyond the disappearance during the War of Red Mountain in First Era 700.
Flight from the Thalmor by Hadric Oakenhart, a written epitaph of a Nordic skald. Dearest reader, the work you are about to experience has been copied and duplicated so that the story it relates can be spread throughout the Empire. But make no mistake, this is not a work of fiction. The events chronicled in this account are all true, were originally documented in a private journal, which now remains safely guarded in the House of Quills in Hammerfell, and occurred not more than a year before this book was printed. Ashad ibn Khaled, High Scribe, House of Quills, Hammerfell. It's been 9 days. 9 days since I slipped my bonds. 9 days since I strangled my captor with my own chains. And 9 days since I rushed headlong into the night, always listening, but never looking back. But in order to understand my current predicament, one must first understand where I came from, and just where the story began. My name is Hadric Oakenhart, and I am a proud Nord of Skyrim. I am a skald by trade, and received my formal training at the Bard's College in Solitude. For years, I made my occupation as a traveling musician and minstrel, and even served several stints as war bard in service of the armies of the various Jarls. And it's fairly safe to say that if I weren't a bard, I never would have gotten into this mess to begin with. My troubles began when I first started singing about Talos, the ninth and greatest divine, beloved of the people of Skyrim. Turns out, he's not so beloved by the Thalmor. Ah, yes, the Thalmor. As common as a head cold in Skyrim these days, and just as annoying. Or so I thought at the time, before their true power and influence made itself known. For those not in the know, the Thalmor are Skyrim's recently honored guests. High elves of the Aldmeri Dominion who were gracious enough to not wipe us all out during the Great War. But, as every Nord of Skyrim knows, Thalmor graciousness comes at a terrible price. One of the stipulations of the White Gold Concordat, the peace treaty between our peoples, was the abolishment of Talos worship. A man ascend to godhood? Preposterous, claimed the Thalmor. And so, the open worship of Talos has been outlawed in Skyrim, and actively enforced in those cities where the Thalmor have a tangible presence. Cities, I might add, in which the Empire has the most secure foothold. It was in one of these cities, Markarth to be exact, where I made the conscious decision to defy the ban on Talos worship. And my defiance came in the form of, what else? A song. For what bard who has spent time writing and rehearsing an original work can possibly refrain from performing it? So perform it I did. Not once, not twice, but 7 times, once a day, for an entire week. Now, here's something most of my kinsmen are unaware of. Not all Thalmor in Skyrim are equal in station or purpose. In fact, there is one group in particular that operates secretly in the shadows, watching and waiting for those Nords who break the law and continue their worship of Almighty Talos. These are the Justicars, and it is their job to enforce this, the most terrible of conditions of the White Gold Concordat. And so, I would have performed my song for an 8th time had I been given the opportunity. Sadly, I was not, for the Justicars had been watching, had been waiting. Instead, I received a black sack over my head in the wee hours of the morning, a dreadfully uncomfortable wagon ride, and sinister promises that I would enjoy my new home, which I came to realize was some sort of secret Thalmor prison or detention camp. One I was certain I would never leave alive. It was at that moment I realized I needed to make my escape. No matter what, even if I died in the attempt, I had to slip the grasp of my captors. Better that than rot in some god-forsaken Thalmor jail to the end of time. I finally got my chance when the wagon stopped, and we made camp for the night. One of my 2 Thalmor guards set off into the forest to hunt, leaving me alone with the other. And so, my account comes full circle. It is now 9 days later, and in that time I have realized the true extent of my foolishness. I couldn't have sung the song just once, or maybe twice, or not at all. I couldn't have swallowed my stubborn Nord pride and realized just how much power and influence that Thalmor truly have over the Jarls. No, I could not. So now I run. Like a hare from the hound, I run. Always moving, rarely resting, never sleeping. But the Thalmor dog my every move. Where will I go? How will I escape their grasp? I honestly don't know. The only thing I now understand for certain is this. If the agents of the Almeri Dominion cannot have your soul, then they will take your very life. My name is Hadric Oakenheart, and I am a proud Nord of Skyrim. Remember me, for soon I will be dead.
Huh? 何？健闘を祈る。
Ingasta, Kvata, Kvakis.
By Ingasta, an obscure text written in the language of the Sloat by a necromancer.
Ingasta, Kvata, Kvakis. Axtas son novax latero, ois gerile, soranatal. Risevas kixin, pagentage, membrao, kaj aliage individual, kiun, a manier taxasus, soraneta activero, en gixi aperas informal, unual vice, pri, so locao, so kixiu monataja, convenal, sed nature, anquax prialiage, actuasage, activecao, so societo, nemalofte, encahas crome plej, diversa pecta materiello, educa oix distra. So, interara cavaco, ret letera caj verseo axtas, unufsonque alternativage, canasau, por distribui, so en havon, so papera kvak, sed alifsonque, so en havau, so diversage, verjo, antoax vibil, ne povas, cajex, nevus, cixiam axti, 100% sasama, en malveste, circusonta paperfolio, exemple esbos, publicigi illustraxaum, Kiuj pro copir jataj, ki asau ne axtas, use bizoj, en so interreto, alefsonque, so masoltaj, costau reta distribio forgias, so spacagen, limegaun kaj permacas, pli ampolscan en hovan, por ne paroli pri gicshora actualeco. Tiuj circunstanza rax pejuligos, in so aspecto so cavacao, kiu jasateri servos, en qua kiel gixenera so retejo soranatao.
Nords of Skyrim by Hrothmund Wolfhart, an essay professing the finer quality of Nords. Nords of Skyrim, my people, my pride. Respected reader, my name is Hrothmund Wolfhart, and I am a Nord. But, more importantly, I am a Nord born and raised in the lands of Skyrim. I write this volume in the desperate hope that the rest of Tamriel can come to know my people as they deserve to be known, and understand this province for what it truly is, a place of uncontested beauty and culture. Some of what you know is undoubtedly true. Physically, we Nords are an impressive, often imposing sight, tall of stature, strong of bone, and thick of muscle. Our hair is often fair and worn braided, as has been the custom for generations. Often we are swathed in the hides of beasts, for such creatures are abundant in Skyrim, and we would be foolish not to take advantage of such an available resource. Having read this far, you may be shocked at the strength of my words and the literacy of a northern savage. Aye, many Nords can both read and write. My father began my instruction in the way of letters when I was but a bairn, as did his father and his father before him. But the accomplishments of the children of Skyrim are multitude, and go beyond mere wordcraft. For we are artisans as well, and through the ages we have learned to manipulate steel the way a sculptor would clay. Indeed, I have seen with mine own eyes visitors from High Rock and Cyrodiil weep in disbelief as they beheld the blades wrought in the fires of the Skyforge, and honed to beautiful deadliness by the gods-touched hands of Clan Greymane. But how can this be true, you ask? How are such achievements possible from a people who have yet to emerge from the muck and snow? Again, provincial bias clouds the truth. The cities of Skyrim are a testament to Nord ingenuity and craftsmanship. Chief among them are Solitude, seat of the High King and capital of the province. Windhelm, ancient and honoured, a jewel in the snow. Markarth, carved into the living rock itself in ages long since past. Riften, nestled in the golden shadows of the Fall Forest, whence comes delicious fish and meat. And Whiterun, built around the hall of Jorvaska, home of the most noble companions and revered Skyforge. And now, respected reader, you have the full measure of it.
We Nords are everything you imagined, and so much more. But let not this work be your only gateway to the truth. Book passage on carriage or vessel, and make the journey north. See Skyrim with thine own eyes. See Skyrim as have the Nords, since the gods first shaped the world.
Skyrim's Rule by Abdul Mujib Ababni. In my travels, and they have been many, I have encountered many strange peoples and cultures in many different provinces of the Empire. And in each I have found a method of governing and customs of leadership unique to that particular province. In Blackmarsh, for example, the Argonian king relies upon his Shadowscale assassins to eliminate threats secretly without the common knowledge of his people. In the imperial province of Cyrodiil, the emperor may rule directly, but the power granted to his elder council cannot be understated. During a recent journey to Skyrim, that harsh, frozen realm of the Nords, I was able for the first time to witness the unique manner of rule of this strong, proud people. It would appear that the entire province of Skyrim is separated into territories known as holds, and each hold finds its seat of power in one of the great ancient cities, and in each of those cities there rules that hold's king, known as a Jarl. The Jarls of Skyrim are, as a whole, a fierce sight indeed. Sitting on their thrones, ready to administer justice or send their forces out to quell some local threat, be it a pack of feral wolves or a terrifying giant that has wandered too close to a settlement. In observing these Jarls, I found each to, of course, have his or her own unique personality and leadership style. But what I perhaps did not expect, especially considering the Nord leaders' unfair reputation as barbarians or uncivilized chieftains, was the formal structure of each Jarl's court. For while that hold's leader may be the one to sit on the throne, there is also a collection of functionaries who serve very specific and important roles. The court wizard counsels the Jarl in all matters magical, and may even sell services or spells to the keep's visitors. The steward is the Jarl's primary advisor, and generally takes care of the more mundane aspects of running the keep, the city, or even the hold, depending on the situation. And woe is the fool who defies the housecarl, a personal bodyguard who rarely leaves the Jarl's side, and has pledged to sacrifice his or her own life to save that of their honored leader, if ever the need should arrive. But as mighty and influential as each individual Jarl is, Skyrim's true power comes from the strength of its High King. The High King is ruler above all, and is always one of the Jarls, selected by a body called the Moot, a specially convened council of all the Jarls who meet with the express purpose of choosing Skyrim's High King. Or so it is, in theory. The reality, however, is that the High King swears fealty to the Emperor, and as Solitude is the city most directly influenced by imperial culture and politics, the Jarl of Solitude has served as High King for generations. The Moot, therefore, is more formality and theater than anything else. But as I prepared to leave Skyrim, I could feel a change in the air, sense the trepidation of some of the good Nord people. Many seemed unhappy with their empire's continued presence in their land, and the outlawing of the worship of Talos as the ninth divine, a stipulation of the White Gold Concordat, the peace treaty between the Empire and Aldmeri Dominion, has only strengthened that division. So, while the Jarls of Skyrim still control their holds, and those Jarls are ruled over by their imperial-sanctioned High King, will there come a day when the Moot convenes to select a new High King, one that is not, as many would say, the Emperor's Solitude puppet? If that day comes, I will be thankful to be far away from Skyrim, in my own home of Hammerfell, for such a decision could well mean civil war, and I fear that such a conflict would tear the fierce and beautiful Nord people asunder.
Tattered journal. They've had me working down here for days now. It's not the time that's getting to me, though. It's these tunnels. I've told them countless times now to add extra supports to the weak sections of the tunnel. If only we had more of those wooden beams that we reinforce with bronze bottoms. Honestly, if I hear the earth shift one more time above my head, I'll be so stressed I may stop drinking for good. I mean, what's a Nord without his mead? The Oblivion Crisis by Praxis Sarcorum, Imperial Historian. A summary of the events stemming from the assassination of Emperor Uriel Septim VII. At the turning of the Fourth Age, in the year 3rd Era 433, the Emperor Uriel Septim VII was assassinated and the Amulet of Kings was destroyed. This set in motion a chain of events that would bring down an empire and change forever the relationship between man and the gods. The assassins first attacked the Emperor in the White Gold Tower. While the Blades held them back, the Emperor made his way down to the dungeons, to a secret escape route built into one of the prison cells. For reasons known only to himself, the Emperor pardoned the fortunate prisoner in that cell. Some say the prisoner reminded him of a childhood friend. Others say it was a moment of prophecy. Whatever the case, the prisoner came to play a fateful role in the history of the Empire in Tamriel, surely a sign that the gods themselves were at work. The pursuing assassins killed the Blade's bodyguards in a relentless series of sneak attacks. Eventually, they struck down the Emperor himself. Before he fell, Uriel Septim VII gave the Amulet of Kings to the prisoner, who somehow made it out of the Imperial sewers and into the light of day. The assassination is now known to have been the work of a group of Daedric cultists known as the Mythic Dawn. Those who still suspect the Dark Brotherhood should consider two facts. First, they would have only needed a single assassin, not a small army of them. Second, the Dark Brotherhood would never be so foolish as to effectively declare war on the Empire and thus ensure their complete destruction. Witness the eventual fate of the Mythic Dawn. The Amulet of Kings next surfaced at Whorcs Priory near Chorl. Joffrey, secret Grand Master of the Blades and head of the Priory, took possession of the amulet. The messenger was sent off to Kvatch to find a lowly priest named Martin. Unbeknownst even to himself, Martin was the bastard son of Uriel Septim VII, and the last heir to the Ruby Throne. He alone could use the Amulet of Kings to light the dragon fires that wards the barrier between Tamriel and Oblivion and save the world from the Mythic Dawn plot. The prisoner arrived at Kvatch to find it overrun by Daedra that had poured in from a newly opened Oblivion Gate, the start of the empire-spanning devastation of the Oblivion Crisis. How the prisoner closed the gate is not recorded. Once closed, Martin and the surviving Kvatch guardsmen drove back the Daedra. Now known as the hero of Kvatch, the prisoner and Martin returned to Whorcs Priory, only to find the Priory sacked and the amulet taken. Joffrey survived the attack, however, and the three of them made their way to Cloud Ruler Temple, bastion of the Blades. This secret fortress in the mountains outside Bruma is where Martin was held safe while the hero of Kvatch searched for the lost amulet. Knowing only that a mysterious group called the Mythic Dawn was behind the assassination and theft of the amulet, the hero of Kvatch was sent to locate the cult. With the help of W.H.O.R.S., a blade in the service of the Emperor, they somehow used the commentaries on the Mysterium Xarxes, esoteric works by the madman Mankar Cameron, to direct them to the Mythic Dawn's secret lair. Scholars familiar with the commentaries claim the location is not directly mentioned in them. How they did this remains a mystery. No official records exist of how the hero of Kvatch penetrated the Mythic Dawn's lair near Lake Ares. There is a bardic tale that claims the hero used trickery and disguise, but that is just speculation. What was discovered there is that Mankar Cameron was behind the Mythic Dawn, and that the group worshipped the Daedric prince Mehrunes Dagon. Mankar Cameron believed himself to be a direct descendant of the Cameron usurper, the infamous pretender to the throne of Valinor. Somehow, the hero escaped with the Mysterium Xarxes itself, the holy book of the Mythic Dawn cult. Mankar Cameron fled to Oblivion with the Amulet of Kings. With some effort, and great risk to his sanity, Martin deciphered the Mysterium Xarxes and intended to use it to open a gateway to Mankar Cameron in order to recover the Amulet of Kings. Before Martin could perform the ritual to open the gateway, Mehrunes Dagon opened an Oblivion gate outside Bruma. The hero of Kvatch saved the city and Martin by entering the gate and closing it before a Daedric siege engine could destroy Bruma and Cloud Ruler Temple. Many songs and stories have been told of this battle, and I will not retell them here. The hero of Kvatch was now also known as the savior of Bruma. With the city and Cloud Ruler Temple safe, Martin opened the portal to Mankar Cameron's paradise. The details of what transpired in this place have not been recorded. All that is known is that the savior of Bruma traveled to this paradise, killed Mankar Cameron, and returned with the Amulet of Kings. With the amulet in hand, Martin Septim presented himself to the Elder Council to be crowned Emperor of all Tamriel. Once crowned, he planned to relight the dragon fires and seal Tamriel from oblivion. In a last-ditch attempt to stop him, Mehrunes Dagon launched an assault on the Imperial City, opening several Oblivion gates within the capital itself. Uncrowned, Martin joined the battle in the city streets. Mehrunes Dagon himself left Oblivion and entered Tamriel, breaking the Covenant. Only the unlit dragon fires allowed this to be possible. Now that the barrier was ripped asunder, it was too late to relight the fires. Martin Septim chose to make the ultimate sacrifice. He shattered the Amulet of Kings to become the avatar of the god Akatosh and to do battle with Mehrunes Dagon. Records of this battle vary wildly. What we do know is that Mehrunes Dagon was defeated and sent back to Oblivion. The avatar of Akatosh was turned to stone and can be seen to this day in the Temple of the One in the Imperial City. With the amulet gone, and the dragon fires quenched, and the last Dragon Blood Emperor dead, the barrier to Oblivion is sealed forever. The War of the First Council by Agrippa Fundilius, a brief account of a First-Age religious conflict. This account by the imperial scholar Agrippa Fundilius is based on various imperial and Dunmer sources and written for a Western reader. The War of the First Council was a First-Age religious conflict between the secular Dunmer houses Dwemer and Dagoth and the Orthodox Dunmer houses Indoril, Redoran, Dres, Chlelu, and Telvanni. The First Council was the first pan-Dunmer governing body, which collapsed over disputes about sorceries and enchantments practiced by the Dwemer and declared profane by the other houses. The secular houses, less numerous, but politically and magically more advanced, and aided by Nord and Orc clans drawn by promise of loot and booty, initially campaigned with great success in the north of Morrowind, and occupied much of the land now comprising Redoran, Vattenfell, and Telvanni district. The Orthodox houses, widely dispersed and poorly organized, suffered defeat after defeat until Nerevar was made general of all house troops and levies. Nerevar secured the aid of nomad barbarian tribesmen and contrived to force a major battle at the secular stronghold of Red Mountain on Vardenfell. The secular forces were outmaneuvered and defeated with the help of Ashlander scouts, and the survivors forced to take refuge in the Dwemer stronghold at Red Mountain. After a brief siege, treason permitted Nerevar and his troops to enter the stronghold, where the secular leaders were slain and Nerevar mortally wounded. General slaughter followed, and House Dwemer and Dagoth were exterminated. Nerevar died shortly thereafter of his wounds. Three of Nerevar's associates among the Orthodox houses, Vivek, Almalexia, and Sothasil, succeeded to control of the recreated First Council, renamed the Grand Council of Morrowind, and went on to become the God Kings and immortal rulers of Morrowind known as the Tribunal, or Almsivi.